Hello everyone. I'm Rajneesh from Book My Story, and I'm so happy to have Dr. Rajorshi Ganguli with us today. This is a part of our, an attempt to help our authors get the further mileage, the impetus, because every author wishes to see the book reaches maximum people, and there's so much of effort which is being put in. So this is a small, contribution from Book My Story to further give the fuel to the entire book. And Dr. Rajeshri Ganguly has, is a person of great experience. I must say, I had the privilege of meeting him a few years back, and it was for a different agenda, but finally we met and we connected well. And he was very keen to understand how we do it and what we do. And of course, there was a common person also in between, which also got the conversation got more triggered. And who knew? But Dr. Ganguly called me later, and this is what finally the book is out, Gen Z, which he has written on winning with Gen Z, and it's a great book because for the simple reason, no matter how much you think about it, but every corporate today, is having Gen Zs with them as far as their employee strength is concerned, whether you like it or not, and they come with lots of different ideas to manage them. And on a lighter note, Dr. Rajushi Ganguly told me once, Rajesh, who can actually manage them? But that's his attempt of writing the book as to how the entire configuration of employees is going to further, fuel up, and how to really take care of the employees, because they come with some amazing ideas. They are not the ones who are to be chained, but they need to be directed well. And when there is an experienced person like Dr. Ganguly here, at the helm of affairs, this book is actually a guiding, a document kind of a thing for every HR. And I will urge every HR in corporate, in India and as well as abroad, to read this book and get the little pearls of wisdom which he has shared. He's also a doctorate in the same subject. So we are going to spend the next half an hour, 40 minutes with him, understanding about various things. Any opening lines from you, Dr. Rajushri?
Thank you so much, Rajneesh. And I think uh, you have done the right introduction. I still remember the first day I spoke with you, and
Yeah.
I said that, I'm in the midst of writing the book, but I think from there we traveled well. Thanks to you for supporting me all the way. And
Thank you,
the
sir.
journey is still on and it will continue. But thanks for inviting me also to this podcast today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's an honor. So my very first question actually comes straight on the book itself. That when do you really thought about that? The world needs a book like this on Gen Z. What was the moment? Anything which comes to your mind?
Sure. Actually, I start, as you know, the book was an outcome of the research I did. So much before the book, I started research on this subject. And if I were to change the question, what made me to research on this topic? It was basically, see, I think last 7, 8 years, everybody is talking about Gen Z,
Hmm.
and it's, I think, after millennials, I think this is the most talked about generations, how they behave, what's it, what's not, etc. So,
True.
I think as I used to look at being in the HR profession, we interact with so many people. We interact with people of all generations, and more so the newcomers, because the newcomers are from this generation. I felt that, there were a lot of conversation which was happening around Gen Z. Some of them were based on assumption, stereotypes, also social media narratives, etc. So I thought, why not also do a research on this subject?
Hmm.
And I was intending to do my PhD about 6 years back, 6, 7 years back when this idea came. I thought, let me take a subject which is not just academic, because there are people who they do research and the whole thing is buried somewhere after the research is over. So I thought, let me take something which is interesting, which is contextual, which will also energize me to do the research, just not for the academic purpose, but for practical reason also.
Hmm.
So that led me to choose this topic around Gen Z. And of course, the book came much later
Hmm.
because I thought of, sharing the whole findings or my own insights with a larger population. That's how the book came in. The idea of the book was not there beginning, but it came in much later on.
Yeah, I think it's a absolute transition because you have always been in the corporate, so it was a mix of the corporate experience and then you doing the PhD, which actually must have reinforced that there is a big gap and there is something to be written on Gen Z. That's how it must have been driven, if I can say. So great. So any one myth you think about while writing the book, which was actually busted or something of that kind when it comes to Gen Zs?
Yeah, I think the one of the biggest myth is that the Gen Zs they are not committed
Hmm.
and they are not loyal. They lack loyalty. In fact, the genesis of this research was on the retention of Gen Z. Because a lot
Hmm.
of statistics I used to read and I used to experience also that Gen Zs are not sticking to the organization. So one
Hmm.
belief was that, or even today, that belief is that they are not committed and they lack loyalty. But I think my research showed something very different. They are really willing to stay with the organization, and there's no lack of commitment, provided there are certain things in the ecosystem which brings in the best out of them. So I think that's the biggest myth I found, that it's not that they are not loyal, they are not committed, but if you can create an organization which engages them well, gives them that learning platform, understands what they expect, give them that flexibility, they are no way less committed. You
Yeah,
know, it is simply that we need to understand from where they come from and create the right ecosystem to manage them better.
yeah, yeah.
We cannot just generalize and say, look, they are not loyal or committed. We need to understand that. And that's
True,
what also made me to, come out with the title of the book, Winning with Gen Z.
true.
So how
Yeah,
to really win with them and create a great high performing organization.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure your children who are of the similar age, they must have had a good influence. I wouldn't say deep influence, but a good influence while they must be watching their father writing this book.
Of course, I think, I've already written in my the introductory part of the book that what made me write this book. One, of course, was my experience as a in the HR function, and the much prior to that was, my own. I have three kids. I have an elder daughter followed by twins, son and a daughter, and they are all of the Gen Z age bracket.
Amazing.
So, as parents, we have always dealt with them, and as they were kind of getting, we were bringing them up, their insights, their experiences, their schooling stage, then up to their college. So as a parent also, we understood, where we resonate with them, where we do not,
True.
where
Yeah.
we are challenged, we have to see how do we see from their lens. So of course, they were one of the kind of big motivator for this, some of the insights in the book.
And I have witnessed it also because I was present at the launch, of course, and
Uh,
I've seen them. I could see the great pride on their face and that bright shine in their eyes because I'm sure there would be discussions over dinners and the lunches saying that where have you reached, Dad, and what is it that is troubling you. I'm sure this conversation would have been so wonderful. I mean, I can only imagine, Dr. Ganguly. So
more so because I mean, by the time I started writing the book, they were almost, you know well past or more or less completing their teens, and they are about to enter the workforce. So I used to
hmm.
also pick up conversations, what are their thought process, values, which is something little different from kind of our generation.
Yeah, 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 very true. So coming to the research part, I mean, I was actually thinking about it that a research to a great extent is you do it for yourself, you do it with limited resources here and there. Sometimes you go in depth, but of course, PhD is not a joke. So I'm sure you must have gone underneath the skin of this entire subject. But what was tough? Is it the research? Is it the practical side? Is there a gap there? Did you notice? What was more tougher?
Of course, research is always the genesis. It's always you have to follow the academic rigor of what you want to research on.
Hmm.
But having said so, this was a topic, and I always believe that research should be something which everybody should benefit from. So I think, how do I convert the findings and
Hmm.
the learnings from this entire thing that I spent several years on? How to make it practical? I think that was the most difficult part of it.
Hmm.
Research
Hmm.
has its own difficulty. You have to
True.
complete with the academic rigor. You have to publish papers, do all the analysis. But I didn't want it to end there. For me, it was how this research is socially relevant.
Hmm.
How do I make it practical? I think that was tougher for me. And therefore, when I was writing the book, I think for me, I kept the managers in mind,
Hmm.
the organization in mind, that how would they benefit from whatever it is as an outcome of the research, which they can really deploy in their organization. That was
Hmm.
my always my thought process, which was a bit difficult because how do you translate the whole thing into something where people can understand, absorb, and apply, versus
Hmm.
just a research, where you write a lot of statistics, analysis, and then very difficult for people to understand. That's why in my whole book, I have hardly used any kind of typical research paper full of statistics, diagrams. I have not used. Just there is
Hmm.
one chapter which throws a bit of light on some of the findings, but the rest of the books are also on findings, but they're more
Hmm.
on insights and how do you convert the findings into a story and make
Hmm.
it practical for managers to apply on the job, both business managers, HR managers, leaders, everyone.
True, true. So any one particular, insight which you felt that this was a aha moment, something which the world probably has not understood, but out of your research and then the practical side which you have seen, you felt that this is something which the world needs to know. Is anything which comes to your mind?
I think there are several, but if I have to pick one, I think I would say that, one insight which stood out very strongly, and particularly with respect to how do you retain them and engage them at the workplace, is Gen Z as a cohort does not separate learning from engagement.
Hmm.
Learning, engagement, and flexibility go hand in hand. So the implication for organization is you cannot treat these as different processes. As organization progress and it will have more of Gen Zs in the workforce because their proportion will increase over a period of time. The challenge would be how do you create the organization
Hmm.
where all these blend together, because you can't have a separate learning process, separate engagement process, all that has to all come together to create an experience where Gen Zs feel really engaged and motivated. I think that's one major insight versus, I
Hmm.
mean, there are many more, but this I could recall immediately.
You just mentioned in the initial, conversation that one feels that they are not very committed. They are not very loyal. It's a big statement, and very rightly, because that's what the world feels. But out of your research and your experience, it's a completely different, scenario there. They are very committed. They're very passionate towards their work. It's just that they need a lot of freedom. It's just that you need to handle them with a different lens altogether. So any particular perspective other than this you would want to highlight, Dr. Ganguly, that this is what the world feels, but that's not the case?
I don't think Gen Zs are too different from our earlier generations.
Hmm.
It is, the generational behavior is an outcome of the environment that we all grow. I perhaps grew in a certain environment, and they also grew in a certain environment. So I think what's more important is that I see a lot of similarity between the Gen Zs and earlier generations. It is just that, the some of the expectations which we had versus what they have, you have to see from their lens.
Hmm.
I think if you are able if we are able to understand and see from their lens and interact or create that kind of a experience, it really works. Very
Mm.
often we put our lens and see them from our lens, where the conflict starts, and we feel we don't understand them, or they don't understand us. Likewise,
Mm.
they have to also understand the other generation, because when Gen Zs work in the organization, they have to also work with many other generations.
True.
It's
Yeah.
not that they're going to work within themselves. So they have to also understand and respect the values and ethos of the other generation and see them from their lens. And that's where, it's the bridging which can happen, and people can get the best out of each other. I
Mm.
think that's what I see.
True. Yeah. So any particular chapter you want to pick up from the entire book which you really enjoyed writing, and why? Why was the case?
I think all the chapters are interesting, but towards I think the third part of the book, towards the concluding part of the book, I wanted to bring everything together,
Hmm.
because organizations are not going to be just Gen Z.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, as managers, as CEOs or HR leaders or anyone, you don't have to, and even in families, you don't manage Gen Zs.
True. Yeah.
So I think one of the chapter which I think titles Building Bridges, Managing Intergenerational Collaboration for Success. It is towards, I think, part C. I think I enjoyed writing, where I brought out how each generation sees something from their lens. When I say each generation means, there are cohorts of generation like boomers, Gen X, millennials, like that,
Mm.
how they see things from their light and what others see, and then where do you kind of adapt to each other to make it a winning workplace. I think that chapter I enjoyed most, because most of these Gen Zs are paired with managers, and where the conflict therefore starts is either they're millennials or Gen X. So at the workplace, this is how a common combination is. Very
Mm.
rarely a Gen Z would report to a Gen Z. Maybe
Mm.
after some years it would be, not at this stage where most of them are coming to workplace. So this is
Mm.
where bridging the kind of generational gaps is something I think I tried to kind of bring all the flavors together, so that each one, when they're reading the book, is able to absorb it and respect each other.
Right. So, having written this book, and I'm sure there are so many HR managers and corporate heads are known to you. If you were to hand over this book to someone and say that, of course, read it, but this is one idea, which can probably transform a lot of your thought process. What do you think would that be from the book? Because that's based on your research and your practical experience also.
I think it is not just HR leader. I think this book is more for managers, not just HR leader. In fact,
True.
uh, more than HR leaders, it is the managers who manage their team, and therefore Gen Zs are part of it. So I think, and even of course, there's a message for CEOs and HR leader is, we when we are discussing about Gen Z, and not just Gen Z, even the generations, let's say, which would come after them, the
Hmm.
Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, which I have also spoken towards the end of the book, don't try to fit the old organization or the old models to accommodate them. Because
Hmm.
as time goes by, you have to renew yourself, you know, and that's where I think it's very organization. Every organization has to understand that, let's say, the policies or practices or methods that we use to kind
Hmm.
of run an organization, how do you keep adapting to the different generations which come now and in the future? I think
Hmm.
that's one idea people should quickly pick up. Even simple things like, how do you, let's say, give a feedback, how your reward should be structured. Maybe
Hmm.
the earlier generations were okay with a certain kind of reward and how that reward is administered, but it may not excite the future generations if you try to impose that to the next generation. So
Hmm. Hmm.
everything, as we move ahead, how do you keep renewing your organization to kind of better adapt the systems what suits them? And not just them, you have to manage other generation also. So you might even have to have a bouquet of processes for same kind of systems. which
mm,
appeals to that generation. That's
mm,
where most organizations make mistake, trying
mm,
to impose how we grew as a employee to fit how they should be treated. That's where
mm,
the mismatch starts. And those organizations which are able to understand that quite early, I think they will be able to manage them better. That's
mm.
just not the organization, even the managers.
Actually, on a very personal side, but this whole generation gap which we have been hearing and talking about all these years, like even I have started uh, my corporate life in the early 90s, and you have seen it much more than that. But we never discussed generation gap in corporates. But now, in the last 5, 10 years, this is happening more because the whole society has changed. The aspirations, expectations, disposable incomes, everything has changed. So, why is it that the Gen Zs, particularly, are so misunderstood? I mean, what is it? I mean, what do they convey? What do they act so differently that it's become, people don't understand them properly?
I think, see, I mean, even millennials were talked of, but by the
Hmm.
time we kept on talking of millennials, the Gen Zs entered,
Yeah.
and maybe the COVID added a little more, flavor to the whole discussions because most Gen Zs started
Hmm.
entering the workforce when the COVID was there in the whole world.
Correct,
So
correct. Yeah.
therefore, some of their expectations, habits, maybe they were further kind of influenced by COVID or even things which happened before that. Even
Hmm.
the technology changed very fast over the last 10, 12 years versus
Agreed.
the rate of change earlier, the communication pattern, the technology. I think that all influenced this generation far more than even the millennials and the our generation. Ours was a little steady. The rate of change is growing very fast. So I think we talked about Gen Zs because again we by the time they entered the workforce, the old lens of the organization was already in place. We
Hmm.
always looked at the organization from our old lens. And that's where probably the mismatch between what they expected and the organization provided was more stark.
Hmm.
And maybe that was talked of more, and they kind of became suddenly a subject of a huge discussion.
True. I think I can just go on the book, and I can keep asking you questions, Dr. Ganguly, because there's so much to learn from the book and from your experience. But as an author, now that the book is out and it's almost more than a year now, so how has professionally or personally, what has changed? I mean, after becoming an author.
One feels very good when somebody says, he's an author. That tag was, sorry, that tag was not there earlier.
Right.
You feel respected, and
Yeah.
I think you get a lot of respect and honor by being an author, and more so, maybe I was very lucky. I wrote a book on a subject which was more talked of. So I think that generated more interest wherever I go. I interact in different forums because this is a subject where everyone is able to relate with very fast. It's
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
just the corporate world, even the
True.
uh, common person, because most people have Gen Zs even at their home.
True. Very true.
So
Yeah.
I think this was a subject which was familiar to all. I think I enjoyed the journey so far.
Sure, sure. But what happens is normally, person of course appreciates, and you are a well-networked person as well in this industry for a long, long time. So people would, give the natural greetings and appreciations. But anything unexpected which you got from someone, maybe an email or maybe some appreciation which you were not really expecting of that kind. Was there a moment like this?
I think, there have been several over the last 1 year.
Wow.
Uh,
Mm.
I have got few reviews of the book, not necessarily on LinkedIn because not many, I mean, there are a lot of reviews on LinkedIn. People post suddenly, which was unexpected because I don't know them.
Correct.
Sometimes people write reviews when you know them.
Correct.
So those are there, and there are several of them. I still remember there was one lady who wrote to me suddenly one day. I think she was a teacher. She is a teacher.
Uh-huh.
She's, I believe, an elderly teacher, and she wrote that, your after reading the book, I think I could understand because what I go through in the classroom, and I don't know her. So as a
Right.
teacher, how she is able to, how she can better manage the students. I think she wrote very beautifully. It was more than a page. And
Mm.
I liked it because it was something I felt that somebody just, benefited from it. Uh, there were many other unexpected also. I got calls from some very senior people, not necessarily I know them. They wanted to
Hmm.
understand how to manage Gen Z in their organization because it was a
Amazing.
very conservative and classical organization.
Mm.
Not in
Mm.
my industry too, but they got very intrigued with the book and they said, "Look, I really wanted to understand." So I went and interacted one day with their leadership team. Somebody even commented that after reading the book, I could understand my kids better.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a situation like, they had,
Wow.
and like all of us, we find it. So therefore now I could relate with, how they behave and what I was doing right, wrong. So there are different kinds of feedback or reviews I have got, which it was unexpected because I never thought somebody would kind of share with me.
This is a Balbon moment, I must say, because it's like a life coaching kind of a thing, not just from a employee perspective, but how to manage Gen Zs at home. And someone saying that as a parent, I think it's a great thing, really.
In fact,
So coming to the sorry, yeah,
sorry.
go
In
ahead, go
fact,
ahead. Yeah.
somebody told me that, why don't you translate this book to Hindi? Because then there will be more people who can read and understand. I
Oh
said,
yeah,
thank you for the suggestion, but let's see at an appropriate time, I might like to do it. His
yeah,
idea was, this would reach more readers, but
sure.
I've never thought about it. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure that's in store probably. So coming to the promotion side, Dr. Ganguly, I have witnessed it personally. You're taking so much of interest and discussing so many things with us, and you have walked the talk. I've seen it. And not just depending upon external factors and the social media and everything, but you have done all that which is required. I used to keep telling you that, and you have understood the entire ecosystem of how to promote a book. What would you advise? I mean, what's something which really worked well, and what's something which you felt could have been avoided? I'm sure nothing goes waste, but any advice to new authors?
I think for any author, I was the first time author in terms of writing a book. I think you have to be very authentic and simple in your writing skills. You have to, I think before writing the book or as you are writing the book, I think as an author, and more so for first time author, you have to keep the audience in mind.
Hmm.
It's not just about writing a book. It's about, it's like, making a movie, whether your movie will be liked by the audience
Hmm.
and for
Hmm.
whom you are writing.
Hmm.
Is the stuff inside or the content inside is going to really be interesting for them. So I
Hmm.
think that one has to keep in mind, as you keep on writing the book or you keep editing.
Hmm.
The other part is, as author, it's a very lonely journey because you are the only one who knows what you want to express.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
at times you commit mistakes. This is what I also realized. I mean, my book underwent three iterations. The
Hmm.
first
Hmm.
first version was totally kind of, I threw it. From the
Hmm.
second one, I kind of refined it because after writing the first one, I felt I have written, but it's not making any sense. So I
Hmm.
think that process of refinement before publishing the book is very important, and it is always good to take help of a good editor. Because sometimes as an author we get very emotional with what we are writing.
Hmm.
We don't
Hmm.
want to edit. We want to express more and more. I think that's where help of a good editor will help it more from an audience perspective.
Sure,
And
sure.
I've seen also sometimes first time authors, they make a mistake of not proofreading properly, you
Hmm.
know, not writing it properly. They don't create good impressions. So
Correct,
I was
correct.
very particular about giving a lot of time in coming out with a version which I felt satisfied.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
why it took me about 1.5 years and, completely three revisions. I
Hmm.
was keep rejecting till I came back to you and I said, now looks to me.
Correct, correct.
In fact,
Hmm.
when it looked to me all okay, I remember because my book came out last April. And last year, January, it looked all okay. But after January also, I changed again last three, four chapters. I
Yeah, yeah, I
felt
remember.
something was missing.
I remember. Yeah.
That's something I enjoyed that journey, but I feel on hindsight that was good. And after publishing, I think it's very important to not just see as a one-off promotion.
Hmm.
I think, of course, I did a launch. I did a launch with all my friends and well-wishers, but you can't stop just at the launch. The
Correct.
book is an idea. It cannot be just left to one-off promotion. I think I might, on hindsight, I could have promoted more, but my way of promoting is more with, it's a kind of a subtle promotion, not just one kind of big bang and then leave it. I've seen
Hmm.
some people do it one big bang and you just leave it.
Correct. Yeah.
Though I did a book launch, but I think I have tried whatever forums to talk about it. I could have done more. I agree I could have done more, but probably my time and other commitment
Hmm.
did not permit. But I also feel it is just not about promoting. People should like your book. There is always a word of mouth. And when I see occasional LinkedIn posts or somebody reviewing the book, I feel good because I have not asked them to review.
Hmm.
It's not a paid review or a paid promotion. So I think
Correct.
that helps, I think, to keep it going over a period of time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, what's in store, Dr. Ganguly? You already mentioned about probably translations but as I always tell my author clients that, you can't stop with one. A, because you have tasted success. B, you have got the due attention which you deserve. And as you very rightly just now said, that people have to like the book. And when it is something like yours, where people have liked, I'm sure there's an aspiration, some seeding happening as far as the second book. Anything in store, maybe some new research uh, you're working towards?
Of course, not any new research, but I do keep writing and I love writing. I write
Yeah.
articles and other things very often. But I think now may not be immediately, but I think maybe a year from now, I will start writing something else, which is not exactly on generations, but
Mhm.
because I don't want to bore people on the same topic, but something with related to that, how do you make the workplace of
Hmm.
future more exciting? I think something is brewing in my mind. I also don't have the exact clarity, but I'm
Hmm.
sure as time goes, I'll come out something and I'll attempt. Let's see whether it succeeds.
Sure, sure. I'll just take this one last question, and you did mention about it just now. But how do you see AI coming in corporates, especially because you have to manage a Gen Z or the next generation also with AI, which is being now surrounding everyone. So, what are the challenges which you think for any manager, whether it's AI, I mean HR or a CEO level or even an owner-driven company? Your views on AI and the management.
See, I think AI is well talked of now, and I think what's very important is that my personal belief is whatever we are hearing or experiencing or even using AI, it is just the tip of the iceberg. I think
Hmm.
the next 3 to 5 years, not a distant future, I think it is going to be hugely transformational.
Hmm.
And I don't think anybody will have a choice not to learn that and adopt that. I think it is going to be must. It is also going to impact all organizations in a very different way, the way we work, the kind of roles we have. I think several things will undergo change and it
Hmm.
will be a big shift. I may not have also the answers for everything, but a significant part of our life, and different professions that everybody is in will be impacted by AI.
Mm.
Therefore, the sooner we are able to appreciate and make use of it, I think everyone will be, therefore, it will help themselves to remain employable. Because
Sure.
even the concept of roles, the way we have been used to doing certain type of work, will undergo a lot of change with the impact of AI in every profession.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I see. And by the way, whatever has come so far, I still feel it's probably the 5-10% of AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Things
We
are going to
even
change
don't know
quickly.
what's going to come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. We come to something very quick and fun part, the rapid fire. Just need a quick answer from you. Number one, remote work or office?
Office,
Office. Okay. Purpose or the paycheck?
purpose.
Purpose. Okay. Okay.
Paycheck
Email.
can follow.
Sorry.
Paycheck can follow.
Paycheck and follow. I'm sure it will follow. Email or WhatsApp?
WhatsApp,
WhatsApp, is it? Yeah, I'm great to know that. Stability or flexibility?
flexibility.
Yeah, yeah. Not the stability part, more about the flexibility.
Yeah, I personally, I love more flexibility.
Amazing, amazing. And finally, Gen Z or the millennials as employees?
You have to have both.
Really? Wow,
You can't have an organization with just one set of generation. You have to have, and that's how it's a natural process.
amazing,
And
amazing.
everyone has their own positives and strengths that they bring to the organization.
Super, super. Thank you so much, Dr. Ganguly. On this note, we officially conclude this podcast. But any conclusion from your side, any passing lines before we can end this podcast? Thank you so much. It was really wonderful talking to you, sir. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. And I think this is a very interesting topic to have any discussion on. And I uh, thank you for supporting me and help me in publishing the book and even kind of helping me now in kind of taking it to the readers. Thank you so much. And I wish the readers benefit from this. I think that
Sure.
as an author, I'll be uh, really honored whenever I feel somebody, enjoying reading the book and they're able to implement or, at least have some takeaways which they found as impactful.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ganguly. It was lovely talking to you. I must say, I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm sure this book is, land into a lot of hands, and they're going to see more and more value of it. And maybe, yeah, translation sounds as a great idea because that's where the Janta is also. We feel that we are more into the corporate side and but there are people managing it. SMEs contribute to 40-45% of India's GDP, and they all have different languages to communicate on. So I hope to work more with you in future as well. And Book My Story takes immense pleasure, and it's a great honor, sir, to have done this book. And we'll be in touch for sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Rajneesh.
you, sir. Thank you. Bye.